the Office of the Coordinator of Inter-American Affairs presents Southern Brazil. Thousand miles south of New York lies the proud Republic of Brazil. Occupying about half of South America, Brazil borders all but two of her sister republics on this large continent. From Belém in the north, gateway to the world's largest river, the Amazon, to the seaport city of Rio Grande, Brazil's southernmost extremity, this immense and fabulous land is being transformed from a sprawling agricultural country into an industrial nation, bound and held together in one enormous framework by a single purpose, Brazil's march of progress. Playing an important role in this procession are the 5.5 million citizens of Brazil's three southern states, Paraná, Santa Catarina, and Rio Grande do Sul. The state of Paraná is flanked by a precipitous escarpment known as the Serra do Mar, running parallel to the coast. For centuries, the rugged facade of the immutable Serra prevented easy communication between Paraná's capital city of Curitiba and its coastal city of Paranaguá. The need for a railroad was obvious, in order that the greater part of this state, lying on the plateau, could have access to the sea. Many European engineers undertook the task. All failed. It remained for a Brazilian engineer, Dr. Teixeira Soares, to accomplish this brilliant job of railroad building. In 1885, the 70-mile link was complete. Now, as the train leaves the Paranaguá station and rolls along for 25 miles over a solid and comparatively level roadbed, it is difficult to realize that 50 years ago, all this was deep in mangrove swamp. The train begins its steep ascent. In the next 29 miles, it will follow the pack train trail used in early colonial times by the miners and cattle ranchers. It will wind its way from sea level to a height of 3,000 feet by crossing many viaducts and bridges. Most of these cling to the massive shoulders of rocky peaks. Some are strung across deep ravines and gorges. 14 times it will go through long tunnels hewn out of solid rock. Up and up, until at last the serra yields and the rails run out on the level.
16 miles away is the highland city of Curitiba. Curitiba is a clean and handsome city. No signs remain of the turbulent mining camp that stood here in the 1650s, nor of the remote trading center for ranchers that followed.
Modern structures stand wall to wall with richly ornamented stone buildings of the last century, of which this 60-year-old cathedral is a fine example. Most impressive of Curitiba's buildings is the University of Paraná. Its medical school is considered one of the finest in Brazil.
Each year, on September 7th, Brazil commemorates its Day of Independence. In Curitiba, as indeed throughout Brazil, young and old join the parade of a people's pride.
The state of Santa Catarina, with its rolling hills and rich valleys, scrolled by rivers, has a population of about 1,100,000 people. Its capital city of Florianopolis lies in the curve of an island and is circled by the blue waters of the South Atlantic. Unlike Curitiba, whose problem it was to gain access to the sea, Florianopolis was faced with the problem of how to link itself with the mainland, more than half a mile away. In 1938, a bridge spanning the channel was completed. Appropriately, it was named in honor of Hercílio Luz, a former governor under whose administration this project was begun. Overlooking the span, a grateful people have erected a monument to his memory. A remnant of imperial Brazil is preserved in the architecture of this massive ornamented structure, the Governor's Palace, and in the Metropolitan Cathedral. To this shrine, devout from all parts of Santa Catarina make annual pilgrimages. Paying rich rewards in Brazil's march of progress is the emphasis being put on improving the health of the people. Hospitals like this one are springing up throughout Brazil. To improve the lot of the low-income worker, housing projects are being built everywhere. To wipe out illiteracy and raise the educational level, 10,000 primary schools have been built in the past few years. This one, on the outskirts of Florianopolis, is attended by 500 children. In the vanguard of Brazil's march of progress is the state of Rio Grande do Sul. This state, with its endless prairies or pampas, is the home of 3.5 million inhabitants. A citizen of this state is called a gaúcho, and here, over this cornucopia of riches, fertile soils, ranges, mineral wealth, the colorful gaúcho is king. In his veins flows the blood of explorers and conquerors, of fearless Indians, of tenacious and resourceful European colonists. Tempered by centuries of wild, free life, of open land and sky, the gaúcho emerges today as a virile and enterprising builder, on his productive prairies, on his large inland waterways, and in his great cities. Brazil is the 4th largest producer of cattle in the world, exceeding in number her cattle-producing neighbor, Argentina. Cattle, escaping from early colonial Spanish and Portuguese posts, have roamed the Brazilian pampas since the middle of the 16th century. Unceasingly, the gaúcho has improved the strains and breeds. Until today, herds of thoroughbred cattle graze the range as far as the eye can see. The breeds are numerous. English, a prize bull of this breed. Dutch, better known to us as Holstein. Hereford. This champion sold for $50,000. A few of his proud offspring. In the United States, the cattlemen and the sheepmen are said to hold aloof from each other. On these pampas, gauchos make no such distinction. For here in the heart of the cattle country, thousands upon thousands of sheep are bred, raised, and fattened. Some, like these fellows, are destined for the giant packing houses. Thousands will be shorn. Their wool will be converted in Rio Grande mills into blankets, rugs, woolen goods of all kinds, including the gaucho's own ponchos. Whether out riding herd on the pampas or back at the ranch house, mealtime finds the gaucho preparing a churrasco, the Brazilian version of the North American barbecue. Day in and day out, year in and year out, over hot coals buried in a pit, he roasts his favorite cut of beef and lamb. Ritualistically, he follows this with several gourds full of mate. This efficacious beverage, handed down from the Indians, aids digestion and makes up for many of the deficiencies in the gaucho's unvaried meat diet. Until recently, Brazil was the largest producer and exporter of mate in the world. Though Rio Grande do Sul is principally devoted to raising livestock, it is also the granary of Brazil. First in the production of wheat, corn, barley, rye. It is second in potatoes and rice, and third in beans. Rice and beans constitute the basic foods of a Brazilian. As early as the 16th century, rice was being grown in Brazil. The soil and climate of the country lend themselves admirably to rice cultivation, producing numerous varieties. Planting seasons vary with the climate. This bumper crop was planted during October. Harvesting began in March. On this large farm, 1,000 workers are engaged in gathering, hauling, and thrashing the sun-golden sheaves. Obviously, all this great wealth in livestock and crops had to find an outlet to the markets of North Brazil and the world. A more careful look at the map will reveal that though the South Atlantic washes the entire eastern border of this state, there is not one good harbor along its lengthy coastline. For centuries, sandbars and shoals prevented ships from safely entering the deep waters of the Lagoa dos Patos, Lake of the Ducks. Gaucho enterprise, by widening the channel, created a 250-mile landlocked sea and converted 3 inland cities into seaports. The first of these is Rio Grande, at the mouth of this man-made passage. Until the 20th century, this old city was left to dream of its days when it served as a fort against the Spanish. Outliving its usefulness, it carried on as a fishing village and cow town. With the opening of the channel, it has become a bustling port for ships of all nations. Yesterday, Rio Grande was old Brazil, as typified by the architecture of its oldest church. Today, this fine Gothic cathedral, or this Protestant Church of the Savior, gives striking evidence of the transition which has taken place here. Rio Grande has become one of southern Brazil's principal cities. Perhaps its leading industry is this frigorifico, or packing plant. Established during World War I to supply meat for the Allied forces, the company, convinced of southern Brazil's future as a cattle producer, enlarged and developed its plant. Today, through its corrals, daily pass about 2,200 head of cattle and 1,000 head of sheep and hogs. The packing plant provides its employees with a recreational center. In addition to a fine clubhouse and golf course, there are tennis, basketball, and volleyball courts. Rio Grande has recently stepped up its educational program. This school, completed in 1942, has an enrollment of 1,000 students. This newly built radio station is symbolical of Rio Grande's newfound vigor and her determination to continue to keep pace with the times. Thus, an old city joins Brazil's parade of progress. The opening of the inland waterway of the Lagoa dos Patos has given impetus to the growth of the city of Pelotas. Residents of Pelotas also are in step with the forward surge of Brazilian industry. The impressive commercial club building and the busy airport stoutly affirm that fact. To round out and give meaning to their homes and families, the people of Pelotas have erected beautiful houses of worship. In the field of education, they've been extremely forward-looking. This technological institute is attended by 1,500 students from all parts of the state. While the cities of Pelotas and Rio Grande each makes its bid for prominence, it's the city of Porto Alegre, Happy Port, with its 380,000 people, that is the ranking city of southern Brazil. Here indeed is Gaúcho initiative and enterprise at its best. Founded in 1740 by merging two small settlements, this frontier town of colonial times today is Brazil's 5th largest city, and potentially is one of the great cities of South America. Through its port passes most of the commerce of southern Brazil. Grains, fruits, vegetables, cattle, hides, wool, lumber, and minerals. The state of Rio Grande do Sul is first in Brazil in coal production, and it's from this port that most of the coal mined here is shipped northward. In addition to being the commercial hub of this productive region, it is the state seat of government. The governor's palace. A splendid formal approach includes the monument honoring Julio de Castillo, a former governor. Among the many other attractive public buildings are those housing the post office and the tax department. This is the City Hall, executive office of the mayor. Very little remains today to link this metropolitan center with the past. The past rapidly is being crowded out by the productive present, which is opening newer and wider roads to a greater future. But to this task, the Gaúcho is equal. First in commerce, yes, but first too in those factors so necessary in giving expression to a rich, full life. The word of God has deep meaning to this son of the Pampas, and he observes it to the letter. To care for the sick and unfortunate, he has built numerous hospitals and sanatoriums. For his sons and daughters, the Gaúcho has provided fine schools and institutions. In no other human experience, whether it be on his fazendas or ranch houses, or in his city dwellings, has the Gaúcho found greater reward than in keeping strong his family ties. An entity of its own, almost tribal in its manifestation, is the relationship which exists between the Gaúcho and his kinfolk. Among the many monuments which stand in this Gaúcho city, two are significant. This one was erected to the memory of General Osorio. On its base are inscribed his words: "The day I am told that civilized peoples have celebrated their brotherhood by burning their arsenals will be the happiest of my life." The other one was erected in reverence to the memory of General Bento Gonçalves. Inscribed on it are his famous words: "Countrymen, the name of the homeland never sounded in vain in my ears." Love of country, love of brotherhood and peace, that's the credo of the Gaúcho. That has built southern Brazil, and that's the predominating spirit in Brazil's march of progress.